Good morning. You guys are starting out muted. You can unmute if you want to say hi. That's fine. Hey, I'm so glad you guys are here. Let me share. I'm going to turn my video off if I can. There we are. I didn't even realize, sorry. How's everybody? We stopped video. How are you? I hope you've had a good break and nobody's had any trouble or anything like that. Let me know if you have any sort of resource issues so we can try to get those taken care of for you. No guarantee, but we can try. If you look at Discord, sorry, let me move things around here. Discord doesn't want to go anywhere for me. There we go. In the general 101 chat on our Discord server, I posted a link to attendance. And of course, it's not mandatory. OTC is not going to be keeping track of attendance for the rest of the semester, at least at this point. But I'm asking that you guys go ahead and just log the fact that you were here. And then if we have any problems or anything, we'll have it all recorded. So I'll try to just make an online spreadsheet like that for us for each time. Now, because we need to be more flexible with all of the trauma that's going on, I will be recording our Zoom sessions and I'll post them to YouTube. And so I'm going to ask the people that watch the session later on YouTube to try to find this form. I'll find a better way to post the links to make them not be so huge, but try to find this and mark the fact that you saw it later, and then I'll know that the information is getting to you. This is just kind of a way for me to get that nice warm fuzzy feeling that you guys have seen what's going on. We have so much great stuff to do for the rest of the semester. I don't want you to miss out on it. So like I said, I will be recording, and what we'll be doing for the rest of the semester. Today, we're going to work a little bit more with arrays and array processing, and we'll take the project that we create and we'll update it probably next week to be a Windows Form app. So before we do that, we'll need to learn about creating Windows Forms applications, which are still just really heavily used, really important in the field, and really something that you're going to like. So we have a lot of great stuff to do. Let me see what I've got. Just general stuff. You know how Discord, you guys are probably used to that red spot on Discord, but I'm always like, I need to check and see what's going on. Okay, looks like we have a great group. So I'm going to open Visual Studio. Now, Before I do that, I want to mention, if we have anybody out there that is low on resources, computer-wise especially, the IT staff has been working really hard on this web access facility. I'm going to click on it. That's not the right one. Let me find it. But anyways, it's a web-based remote facility that will allow you to run Visual Studio. It's Visual Studio 2019, but it did seem to be pretty quick. It's not too bad. So if you've only got a Chromebook or some sort of notebook where all you have is web access, this new RD resource remote will probably work for you. And it'll work best if you save all of your projects to TFS. So that way you can get to them no matter what you're using. Okay, let me check our chat here. How's everybody doing? All right, now I'm going to bring up Visual Studio, and I'm having some licensing issues with 2019, so I'm going to have to stick with 2017. But if you're on 2019, that should be fine. Just let me know if you have any problems or questions. Now, remember, the reason that we want to meet together as a class is so that if you run into any sort of issues while you're going through the demonstration or whatever we're doing, you can ask about it, because we know in programming a really small problem can keep you stuck for a really long time. And so I want to keep that from being an issue. Speaking of which, we have a rep will do tonight, that last one on array processing. So be sure to get with your study group. Let me know if you're having trouble. Again, our due dates will be, of course, much more flexible, but try to get that done, because that's knowledge that we need to have before we move on. Now I'm going to create a console project here, and what I want to do is create a small project for us that is going to use a class, because it's been a few weeks since we worked with classes. It's been a few weeks since we worked at all, hasn't it? And we're going to kind of review the kinds of things that we need to have a specific class file. And then we're going to create just a small console app to test our class. So I was thinking we would create a class that has to do with keeping track of audio. And so we're going to call it a CD app, like as in audio CDs. And I'm going to get one open so that I can kind of take a look at it. It is somewhat similar. So for our application, we're going to keep track of just things that have to do with audio CDs. So for the very first thing that we create, oops, can you fix the selected share screen? We're seeing the OBS. Oh, okay, let me check. Does that look better? Does that look better? Okay, thanks. Thanks for letting me know. You don't want to watch that? I feel bad. I'm excited. I know all of your other teachers going to have some, maybe not your CIS teachers, well, some of them going to have some great lectures for you, and they're going to be all excited about Zoom and everything. And I was just like, yes, we could actually do some coding finally. Okay, so I would like to take this CD application and kind of let it evolve because we want to review some things that we've looked at all semester and work towards learning some new things. So let's create a new project. This is going to be a console app, and I want you to make sure of your location settings. And I'm going to name this Audio CD Basic. How's that? We'll have some different ones. I'm not going to add to source control yet because I'm not connected properly to TFS. So I'm going to go ahead and create this project. And then I'm going to connect to TFS. Right now, my TFS unfortunately is connected to a student's account, right? And I need to connect to mine. So I'll let you see how slow it is for me to connect to that server. While it's loading, I'll go ahead and if I reestablish my connection to OTC, I'm probably going to have to do the two-factor authentication, but I'll try it. I hope it doesn't get me all messed up. Now that top login, that is the OTC login, that's connecting you to a facility on Microsoft's cloud. So it is some shared storage that you have available to you that does let you create TFS projects. It's cool, but it is not OTC's TFS server where we need to save our stuff. So that's one of the newer cloud-based Azure servers. Now it's still trying to connect for me. I apologize, but like I said, I'd like for everybody to see how powerful it is. It's going to be there any second, I'm pretty sure. Up here, you can see that I do have another project that I have stored in a GitHub repository. And so my team server does show that Git information for that project, which is fine. I can do both. Just have to kind of keep track of where things are. Oh my goodness. Slow, slow, slow. Of course, it won't let me do anything else, so I'm going to cancel because even though it's just almost ready, it's just ridiculous. I don't want to waste your time. Okay, so I hope that you're able to connect easier and are able to store your project on TFS so that you can have it saved. And I can see it if we turn things in. Now, I'm going to get back to the application. In our application, we're going to create a special class called Audio CD, and we're going to begin with this, keeping track of information for us about audio compilations that are saved in our store. So let's add a new class. And I'm going to call my class Audio CD. Now my class is going to be pretty interesting. It's only going to have one method. It's going to be a static method, and it's going to return a decimal value. And what our method is going to do here is calculate the value of this audio CD. Now we're going to say that Our calculation requires an integer parameter. That is the number of tracks that this compilation contains. And then it contains a decimal value that is going to be the cost. And then this is going to be a per track cost. So we're kind of calculating costs as though it were a download type cost. So the only thing we're going to do in this method is a real quick return, and we're going to return the cost times the number of tracks and we're just going to do a fake formula there to come up with some sort of number. Beautiful. So now we have a static method in our audio CD class. Let's create some comments for this. I want to use the XML comments, so I'm going to do the 3 slashes. And remember, that'll automatically load up some begin and end tags for me that Visual Studio will use if somebody else were to be calling my method, or if I were to be calling my method. Now, in the summary section, I'm going to put a comment. This static method will only exist once in memory. So no matter how many users I had on different computers, all hacking away, all taking orders, I would only have this calculate value method in memory one time for all of them. Now, is everybody doing okay? Doing okay? You okay? All righty. I got one. Yep, good. Okay, so what else do I want to say about this method? Well, it returns calculated cost. And then I want to add some additional comments, and these are kind of for us. So let's put some information in on this method header. First of all, we have the keyword public. Oops. So remember, that's our access mode. And of course, public is allowing others to see this method. So I'm going to be able to run this method from our main. Static. We're going to call that a special keyword, right? And it means one instance. Then the keyword decimal is the data type of our method output. Calc value is the name of our method. We haven't done this for a while, right? And then we have the beginning of our parameter list. Data type of our first parameter. And then, of course, num tracks is the identifier or name of the first parameter. We have to have a comma in between parameters. Decimal is the data type of our second parameter. And cost is the name of our second parameter. Remember, the data type names, the parameter names, num tracks, and cost are going to be variable names that are local to this method. They're only available within this method. These variables will be allocated when the method's called, and the data that's passed by the calling program will be used to load those up. So how would we call it? Let's add that in. How we would call that is by saying decimal value equals my calc value method with a number and a decimal value. Okay, so our class has more comments now than code, but that's okay. So don't forget that you can refer to this one. It's kind of just a memory aid for us to keep thinking, oh, all this awful C# syntax, what does it all mean? It's all clear. It's like it comes to the surface. Now, my program.cs file is going to be my tester. So let's name it such. I'm going to rename it. And I'm just going to name it tester. I'm going to make sure it keeps its .cs. And then I want to rename all references to it. Okay, great. Now, in order to test this, we need to just call that method, really, is all we've got to do. But we're going to have some other information here if we want to make this all be something that, you know, is a real usable application. I think that in order to minimize how much we have to do, let's create a method here in our tester to display output information about an audio CD. So this again is going to be a static method. Let's call it display output. And in this method, we're going to expect all of the data that we're going to output to be passed to us as parameters. For our audio CD, we want to keep some pieces of information. We're going to keep track of the name of the compilation or album per se, how many tracks it has, the cost, and then the value being that calculated value from our method that we have created. So let's put all of these parameters in as items that we're going to need to display our output. Let me see. First of all, we're going to have a string for an ID, which will be a unique identifier our company assigns to this CD. Then we're going to have an album name or compilation name, and how many tracks. And I'm going to continue on the next line. With our cost. Now in our method, we're going to take those parameters that are passed to us and we're going to output them. So let's create a string variable to hold our output message. And we'll start out with an empty string. And then I just want to add each of these items into our string. So I'll do message plus equal, and I'm going to use an interpolated string. So I'll use the $sign, and I'm going to say the audio CD's ID is our ID parameter. And after the ID, I would like to go to a new line. I want to add more to my output message. Album. And I'm just sort of lining up my output variables and then colon to try to make it look readable. After our album, we're going to have the number of tracks. I'm going to have to go over 1. And our number of tracks was our num tracks variable. Now, right now, I'm putting this display output in our tester, but we'll move this code kind of to our toString of our audio CD class as we develop that class. So we'll just be able to copy this code and move it. Now my cost, I'd like to format as currency. So I'm going to use that C formatting character. And then the last thing that I want is going to be that CD value. Let me check my audio CD class. That should work. So my value is calculated. Now, can we call our calc value method? Let's try something first. I'm going to go up to the top of the method and let's create a decimal variable called CD val, and let's set it equal to our audio CDs calc value output. And we're going to be passing in the number of tracks and the cost. Now, if I do that, where I call the CD val and get it all preloaded, we can just use that variable then in our output and format it as currency. Oops. So that'll work. What I was wondering is, could I just call my calc value method as I create the message? Let's try. So I could, so either way would be fine. I'm kind of, as you know, a simplification freak. So I like doing the preload of the variable and then outputting the variable. But that does create memory use for that variable. Creating the call right in line could be considered more efficient code. Oh. So now we've got an output method. Dang, we've done a lot here for not doing anything yet, huh? In my display output method, since I've got you here captured, I'm going to put some comments. 1, 2, 3. Display the output for the audio CD. Okay, so in our main then, we need to come up with what CD we're working with. So we could create input methods, right, and prompt our user to ask them what, what kind of audio CD, oops, typo. What kind of audio CD we're working out, what is the album name, how many tracks, and then we would get all that information gathered. But like I mentioned, we're going to front end this with a Windows form. So I don't really want to create all of those methods because we're just going to replace them. So instead, let's just come up with some default values that we're going to create a CD with. So we'll just say display output, and we'll say this is CD ID 1. What do you want the album name to be? I need a good album name. What do you think? What do you think? Got that Aussie one, huh? Death Kittens. Is that an album or is that just a band? Oh, see, we don't have the band name as one of our data fields. We're going to be missing some things. See, this is just bad. You shouldn't make me search for things like this early in the morning. Ah, okay. This is a bad album. It has 13 tracks. And what else do we need? How can I figure out? I could go look at my class and see my display output. Oh wait, it's right down here. I wouldn't have to look very far. But I want you to notice, look at how Visual Studio, again, is showing you in the IntelliSense exactly what you need. So the next thing I have is cost. I'm not gonna do it. I'll make it 99. Then what? Is that all of my parameters? Guess so. Why is it mad about this one? Oh, I made the ID a string. Okay, how's that look? So now we didn't actually create any sort of instance of a class. We're just using our class for this calc value method. That's like its only reason for being, just that static method. So I want you to know I'm not making it 6.66. I saw it. No. So anyways, not today. That's just really wrong. Okay, give me all sidetracked. So anyhow, let's put some comments up here. We're going to test our class. Let's do it. Run it. Now I'm going to do Control F5. Can you see my lack of output? What did I not get anything? We used our display output method, right? What did we do with our message when we got done with it? Nothing. Should we do something with it? Let's do something with it. Let's return it. Now, if I'm going to return it, this can't be a void method. It's going to have to be a string. Now, let's run it. Still nothing. We got to actually put it in the console.write line, don't we? What's that? So we're calling our display output method. We're saying we have this one, okay, that, and that. In our display output method, we are calling our calc value that's in our separate audio CD class. Hey, and we know that up here, we could put a using statement for our audio CD class, and then we wouldn't have to prefix that method name. Let's run it. See if we're getting any output. Okay, I am, but I'm not getting some new lines. So let's check that. Could be because I did not put them in. \n. I did not practice over the break. Let's try again. Control F5. Okay, now our CD value is quite extreme. You gotta pay a lot for that. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. All right, so it looks like it's working. I still have like one weird space that I didn't account for. Line these all up. Control F5. Beautiful. Perfect. Okay, so we just did a static class. This static class had a static method. We can call that method, right, just like it's any other method without creating an instance of the class or anything. So great. Now I want to take this a little further. So I'm going to run another instance of Visual Studio. Or let me just save this one. And before I close it, I'm going to bring up File Explorer looking at this project because I'm going to want to copy some things out of this project into our new one. So in Solution Explorer, if you right click, you can say Open Folder and File Explorer, and I'd like to do that. Now I'm just sitting here looking at my project folder. I'm ready to copy some things out of it. I know exactly where it is. All right. Okay, so I'm ready to close this one. Everybody good? It's working for everybody? I'm closing it. Okay, so let's open Visual Studio again. Oops, not the right one. Okay, I want a new project. Sorry, I looked at the news there and saw something about bad stuff, bad stuff. Now, for this application, it's still going to be a console app. Let's name it Audio CD class, because we're going to actually create a more extended class. So in our last project, we saw that we wanted to keep track of the CD ID, which is like a number assigned by the owner. We wanted to keep track of the album name. And of course, there are lots of other data items we would like to keep track of for the CD, but to keep our space requirements minimized, we're also going to keep track of the number of tracks and a cost number. So those are the data items that we're going to want to keep in this audio CD class. That's going to be a full class to keep track of instances of audio CDs. I want to show you kind of where my mind is when I think about this. Everybody's different, we know. But when I'm thinking about an audio CD, for some reason I think about this old used record store in New Orleans where my daughter is, and you can see they have CDs, they have albums, they just have tons and tons of stuff. So you could find your Poor Dead Kittens or maybe whatever you want, but it's pretty cool. And so that's kind of what I think about when I'm thinking about, I wonder how they keep track of what they have and where it is and all that kind of stuff, their inventory. So we're kind of thinking about that. This company could have an inventory system to keep track of the things they have in stock. They could have a point of sale system that keeps track of the items that are being sold, that calculates the cost as people check out. So lots of different computerized systems that would be helpful to them. So that's where we are. That's what we're thinking of. So in our audio CD class, let's add a class. And again, I want it to be audio CD. And this time I want to do something a little different. So are you with me? We're going to use our audio CD class, this empty CS file, to use this GUI application, a GUI interface to build our class. So to do that, right click on your audio CD CS file and choose View Class Diagram. Now in your View Class Diagram, I want you to find this Class Details window. Right now, it just has headings for the things that are within this class, because our class is empty right now. Did everybody find that? Do you find this class details area okay? Got it, got it, got it. Yeah. So in Solution Explorer, right click on the CS file and choose View Class Diagram. Now, when you view the class diagram, this class area should be down at the bottom. Since I closed mine, I'm going to have to go back to the View menu and see if I can find it. That wasn't it. I can't remember what it's called because that's why I was mentioning it. Class details. So I'm finding another view, other windows, class details. No, that's not it. Oh, come on, maybe. Okay, I'm going to do window, reset window layout. And then click on the class. And that class detail screen is the right one. That is what we want. Oh, no class diagram for you on the Mac. Oh, you're going to have to do some typing. Okay, I just want to show you that this is a possibility because it's handy. So let's click on fields. I want to click on add field. We said that for our class, we wanted to keep track of the ID. Now, these are the data fields. So I'm going to start them with lowercase letters. Now, our audio CD, we said that was a string. And then I wanted the album name, which again was a string. Now, if you're finding this and working it, what happens is as we type this data in this class details screen, Visual Studio will generate all this class code for us. So it's kind of nice. So you really want to try it. Now, after our album name, I'm trying to think of what else we had there. The number of tracks was an integer, and our cost we said was a decimal. And we're just trying some different data types here so that we can work with them. Now, for every field that I have in my class, so far I've been creating a property. So I'm going to use this properties area, and I want a property that is audio ID string and album. And with our properties, and I'm making them uppercase because our properties are public and usually begin with an uppercase letter. Our standard is we name our property the same as our private data field, except that our property has an uppercase letter at the beginning. Our number of tracks is an int, and our cost a decimal. In our class, we're going to have our calc value method, right? We know we already are going to need it. It returned a decimal value. We could mention other things about it here, but we can also add them in our code later. Now, another method that I think that we're going to need is we're going to want to override the toString. So that'll be returning the string. That should be it. We could add events, but we haven't learned about those yet. That's coming up this week. And we could add other methods if we wanted them. But for now, this is all we need for our audio CD class. Now, on the top half of the screen where I've got the class diagram, kind of like a UML diagram, if I expand that, I see my class name, my fields, my properties, and my methods. Now, if I go back to my .cs file, I should see that all that code has been generated for me. So notice that there's some things we've got to fix up, but in general, it's got it all set for us. Now our getters and setters need to be fixed. Our getters and setters, if you remember, are our publicly available fields that front end are private data fields. So we can get these all set up so that we know what the association is. So if somebody accesses my audio ID property, I want to get the lowercase. So I would return audio ID. We're using some weird syntax here. There we go. And in my setter, I want to set audio ID to whatever value is passed. So we need to do those for each of our properties. For album, I want to get the album data field. And if they want to change that, I want to set the album data field. If they want to get the number of tracks, or set and again, remember, value is just a keyword that C# uses to say this was the parameter that was passed. In our cost, our getter would return the cost variable. Our setter is going to update our cost variable. We have our calc value method that we need to fix, and our toString. So that's where I wanted to get some code from that previous project. Let's do it. I have my previous project open in File Explorer, right? Audio CD Basic. So in my Audio CD Basic project, I'm going to go into my Audio CD Basic folder. In that folder, I see my tester CS file and my audio CD CS file, I can open my audio CD CS file, but I need to be really careful because if I just double click on it, I'm going to open it in Visual Studio and I'm just going to have a new tab. And so I'm going to have two versions of this audio CD file open. I really don't need to do that. I would just like to copy that code. So I'm going to right click on that file and just open it with Notepad. I don't need anything special or anything here. Now I'm going to copy my line of code and paste it. And then for my toString, I need to look at my tester. And I want that whole display output method. And I want to paste that as my toString. Now my toString needs some things fixed up. First of all, it needs that keyword override. And the toString is a system method. It's part of the system class. So when I override that, I'm saying this is the string output, the string equivalent for my class. So I have to return a string. We found a couple weeks ago in everybody's testing that we have to use the uppercase string variable specifier if we want this override to work properly. Now the only thing I'm having a problem with here, first of all, my variable name there is audio ID. And I can't call my calc value this way. I don't need the class specifier because now we're in the same class. I've still got an error. If you look at it, it says you don't need to have two arguments. No overload for method calc value takes two arguments. Because I'm working with the class, I can eliminate those parameters and my calc value. We'll just use the class data fields to make that calculation. Now my class should be fairly well built. I need to do some commenting, but other than that, I've got my private data fields, my public properties, and my methods. If somebody were to create an instance of my audio CD class right now, it would use a default no arg constructor. So that means I may not actually get any values out. Let's try our tester and see. First of all, I want to rename the program.cs to tester. And I want to create an instance of our audio CD. Now, with my audio CD set up this way, I'm going to output using console.writeLine information about my CD. And that should run my toString method, because whenever I name an instance of a class, the default method is the toString. Let's do a comment about there. Okay, so when we call our audio CD to create an instance, that is what our syntax is doing. First of all, we're starting out saying I want to create something with the data type audio CD. Here's its name. It's a new thing. It's a new audio CD. And then I'm going to use our toString method to output information about that CD. So let's run it. Press Control F5. So everything worked. It used a default no-arg constructor. So we didn't get any data, right? Because we didn't pass any data. Now I can't pass a 1 because my audio CD doesn't have a constructor that wants 1 parameter. What I could do is update my CD's properties, and I could say that the audio ID equals 1 and the album what was it, death kittens, dead kittens, death, oh yeah. All right, I'm just going to do a couple, press Control F5, and now we have values for our class data because we used our class properties to update those values. So we have some great things going on here. We're using our toString method to output some things. What I really wanted to do though was create an array. So let's fix our audio CD class to take some parameters so that we don't have to keep updating all of these things manually. In our audio CD class, let's add a constructor. We can do that manually, or we can use our tools, our quick action tools. So in my quick action tools, I'm going to say I would like to generate a constructor. Now, I don't really want all of these things. I don't want any of my properties, but I do want my ID, album, num tracks, and cost. And then it generates that beautiful constructor for us that has all of those parameters. Whenever we use our constructor, we have all of our data fields, and we are setting the values for this instance of our class. Okay, so we should be able to change our tester then. Make it CD2. Let's see, what else do we need? 10 tracks. Let's say it's 5 for our cost. And then I want to output that information so we can see that constructor working. My CD2. Now, we have a problem with our old code because previously our audio CD class had no constructor at all. So the runtime system would generate the default no-arg constructor. Since we added a constructor, now it won't do that anymore. We have to put that no-arg constructor in ourselves. So let's add that. I'm in my audio CD class. And I'm going to just make it really basic where it doesn't really set up any data fields or anything. Default no art constructor. All right, I think we're ready to test that. And now we have our second CD. It's really expensive. Okay, so could we put them in an array? Let's try it. I can create an array of audio CDs. Array of CDs. Now, if I want to use the standard C# array, I'm going to say how many instances I have, and then I can say, oh, in my array CD, my first instance is equal to my CD. My second instance is equal to my CD2. And now I could do console.writeLine on my array CD, and we'll do 2 again. I didn't put one in position 1. I keep putting those semicolons before things, but that's all right. Okay, so let's try it. And then we see it's all working in our array. Does it work for everybody? We're going to take things and really expand on stuff. Next time, on Wednesday, we're going to look at creating Windows Forms applications. And then next week, we'll come back to our CD project and we'll implement it using Windows Forms. So it might not be Monday, it might be Wednesday. It'll depend on how far we get. But in the meantime, let me know if you need any help with that REPL. As you're looking at this, you might think about how could you set up some sort of loop? Could we set up a loop to at least output these CDs? Should I do 1 there so that we don't have a null? Let's do 2. How about you figure out how could you output all of them in a loop with a null instance there in position 1? Is there an if statement that you could use to check to see if something is really an instance of a class or if it's just nothing? So this is a really cool, powerful feature of C# where we can take our classes and we can just stuff them into an array. And then when we get them back out of the array, they're still the class that they were. So when we first learned about arrays, we saw that we could only use one data type. Well, if we use classes, that's okay because we basically have set that one data type up to hold all of the data that we need. Does that make sense? Okay, questions? Any? Got any questions? I'm going to turn this thing off if you don't, and I'm going to save it and I'll post it to YouTube so you can grab it later. If somebody could share code to Discord, that would be great. I'm going to get all of this closed and push to TFS. Don't forget to do that with yours so that you can get to everything later. Glad you guys made it. I'll see you Wednesday and we'll start Windows Forms and it'll be really fun and it'll make you be so much more productive because it is just so great to get out of the console environment that you really, really like it. I think it's what we've all been working for. Now, let me know if you have questions. Let me know if you need resources. Let me know, if there's anything going on that I can help with or even just be aware of. And
Hey, there are a couple questions that are in the chat.
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I was scrolled back. Sorry, I didn't see them. Thank you. When should we use an array? We'll be looking at a lot of those kinds of things over the next couple of weeks. Whenever you're working with an array, you should be able to sort it. So check your syntax here. We should be able to do array. Now, when we do a sort like that with our array CD, that's different than just sorting an array of integers. So the system is going to know how to sort an array of integers, but it's not necessarily going to know how to sort our class instances. So there are ways that we talk about in C#2 to override that system sort so that we can say, hey, for an array of CDs, I want them sorted this way, but you can. So yeah, you can sort with an array. So remember that with C#, we can actually use the array class for a lot of different things. So we actually type the keyword array, and then after you type the period, you'll see all of the array methods that are available to work on an entire array. So like I could clear it or copy it or search through it if I wanted to. So do try experimenting with some of those, because anything that you do is going to be helpful. If you do the resize, what happens is the system automatically reallocates your array at a new size, moves everything to this new one, and then deletes your old one and puts that new one in its place. So it's kind of a resource intensive resize, but it does let you change the size of your array. So try some of those different array functions. We'll work with arrays throughout our time with Windows programming, but you can never get enough practice. What else? Yeah, constructor. For our default no R constructor, you can see I just made it really basic. It has no code, just the same as what the system would do if we didn't have a constructor at all. And as far as when you should use an array, you should use an array anytime you're thinking of having more than one of something. So if that meets your need, a collection is going to be a better way to process things. So the YouTube link will be on our Zoom link. So I'll post it, but you should be able to find it in Canvas. Sorry, it's jumping around. Well, what have I done with it? I'll post it. I'm not seeing it. I've just been hiding it from you guys. I will get it posted. So our Zoom link, there are other videos from earlier in the semester out there too. So it'll just update as we add new things. So anything else? Is everybody okay? Everybody's got food? Good. you should use the, he's going ahead of the game. Yeah, he sure is. You should use the least, how do I say it? The simplest construct that will serve your purpose. So if you need an array, there is no need to use something more advanced because it will use more resources. But if you need, you know, some sort of list type function that uses a generic data type like that, then you'll know that you should use that type. And you know that there's only the one place, right, usually in C# that you have to change something to change its data type. So it's usually not a very big deal to change something from an array to an array list or anything like that. So yeah, I would just always use the most simple construct that you can, unless you think that your requirements are going to change to where you need a more complicated one. We always want to be minimizing our resources. Any others? Yup. Yeah, you can use append. What's going to be the difference if you use append versus using an index? If you use append, are you going to be able to specify what position it is? You may not care, but it's always going to go to the end. But if you like that syntax, that'll work really. And that sometimes is a lot easier if you're looping. Yep, it'll add a new member and it'll add it to the end. So we could do that. Oh, do we have it? Is it? Nope, no, we don't have append with a standard array. You'd have it with an array list. But with a standard array, it's like, nope, you got to do it yourself. So no append. Got to get fancier. See, it's super, super straightforward cut back. Sometimes just looking at IntelliSense is really helpful. Okie dokie. Well, I know that a lot of people need to work on that REPL. And in that REPL, you're going to create some different methods, just like we did a couple weeks ago, but it's been a while. So refer back to that code. Be sure and yell at me if you want. I'm going to be having my office hours trying to stay here at the computer. So I'll be around and I can jump right back into Zoom without any problem if you've got any questions. So any questions, just get with me. I'm going to go ahead and end this one. And I will see you guys Wednesday. Right, fixed array, fixed. The only way you could change it would be to use that array.resize. And like I said, it would totally rebuild the array at that point. So you could build that code yourself if you wanted to. So an array list will let you resize. But we'll let the rest of you go. And any other questions, I'm happy to hear. Bye. And who just email me and we'll talk about all of those things.